Maggie. I'm a licensed clinical psychotherapist with degrees in psychology, theology, and marriage and family therapy, a national certification in dialectical behavioral therapy, and a national certification in integrative mental health. In this video, I'm not looking to diagnose anyone. I'm only willing to offer insight into situations like these. Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? That's the question. So, a recent Gallup report reveals that only 33% of adults in the US say they feel happy in their lives. That's a 1/3 of people, right? So, 2/3 of people don't feel happy. So, let's talk about it. But first, let's say hi. Adric is in here first with the hashtag PowerPoint Wednesday. PowerPoint. Wow. Pivot point. Too much work and not enough play, apparently. Pivot Point Wednesday. Nina is in here, my favorite auntie. Hi. Leon is here. What's up, Leon? Rocky Morciano is here. Hello. Thank you for being here. All right. So I want to unpack a controversial idea, right? That being correct or being perceived as doing things the right way does not guarantee happiness, right? Like it might even be holding you back from trying to be right or being perceived as right. So there's this sort of belief that is ingrained in us. We have to prove that we're right to be respected, to be successful, or to even be loved. But being right isn't serving you at all because when you're trying to prove you're right, you're doing something called performance pandering just to be accepted. So it's not going to make you happy. Hi, Spain Man. Thank you for being here. So let's step back for a second. Society teaches all of us. So this isn't something that is unique or I'm saying, oh, you're doing everything bad. Society teaches us from an early age that being right equals being successful. And it's not just being right or what the absolute truth is, it's being perceived as right. Okay. So in school, it's all about getting the right answer with the right behavior, the right tone, and the right presence. Then you're good, right? It's what they say you have to be, In your career, it's about making the right decision per policy and without profit loss, right? Then you're right and you can be successful and you can get promotions, right? Leon says that ain't my style. Me either. Right? For many people, though, this also comes from religion, okay? The religious dogma or even cultural dogma that places a heavy emphasis on truth or the right way to do things has this sort of moral superiority. Like we do things this way, and so we're right and you're wrong. That means we're successful, we're loved, we're respected, and you're just bad. The overarching narrative is to be different is to be wrong, and wrongness is failure. And that does not make logical sense. So that's why I ask, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy, right? The belief system does not help us thrive. It literally sets us up to suffer and to lose our autonomy. You do it their way or you're just wrong and you're a failure. And people will say all kinds of things about you, the emotional toll it takes on being perceived as right is huge. How often does the insistence on being right lead to joy? because being perceived as right means you're following every single rule to the nth degree 100% of the time. And I don't know about you, but following rules 100% of the time and not even thinking about what I want or what I like has never led to joy. Never. Not one time for me. What we usually get when we're trying to do everything right is loneliness, stress, regret, fear, right? A lot of times people are following rules out of fear, right? And so we have to follow the rules. You have to follow the rules. You have to do this. You have to do this, or bad, 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 right? Research shows that perfectionism or trying to do things perfect and a constant need to prove yourself correlates strongly with depression and anxiety. So we're not getting happy by doing this stuff. And on top of that, when you're trying to be perceived as right and do everything the right way, all of your conversations turn into arguments, turn into competitions. Like everything is a battleground because you're always having to defend the tenets of the indoctrination or the dogma or the rules or the policy or whatever it is that you're trying to be right around, right? We have this like societal pressure to prioritize being correct, right? In Western cultures, especially, in the United States, the pressure to be seen as correct is everywhere. And we all know this. If you go into social media and you're trying to make a statement of some kind, you will have one of two things happen. You will have people say, cite your sources. And then no matter what sources you cite, they'll find a problem with it, right? Even if it's peer reviewed journals and studies, people will be like, no. Or people will divert as soon as you cite your sources, people will divert the conversation and make it personal, or they'll move the goalpost, or they'll project, or right, because they want to be seen as correct, you want to be seen as correct. A lot of us try to bring sources into every social media argument we're in because somebody's going to argue, right? And social media really thrives on gotcha moments. Like, "Ooh, I caught you. You said something wrong," or "You were deceptive," or "You led us the wrong way. Gotcha, gotcha." And then we can throw the baby out with the bathwater. Then anything you say is completely wrong. To the point where I'm one of those people that if I say something wrong, I got something wrong, I missed something, I couldn't find something, I whatever it is, if I'm wrong, I will literally go publicly and say, "Wrong." You guys can look in my videos. There's literally a video called "Therapist Got Something Wrong," and it was a video about me telling you how I got something wrong. Something happened on TikTok before where the way that I said something could have been perceived a different way. Still my fault because I could have said it better. So I go live and say, "Hey, got it wrong. This is the right thing." And my gosh, if we could all just be accountable for when you screw up, wouldn't that be nice if people would just, you know, admit it? But the obsession with being seen as right does not benefit the people who are arguing, right? Because we're just in endless loops of debates, right? It's not even debates because nobody's following the rules of debate. And it's definitely not a discourse because nobody's following those rules either. They're arguments. It's just arguments. And the obsession benefits powerful people, okay? The corporations, the wealthy, the influencers, because a divided, self-critical society is easy to manipulate. Like righteous Christians, okay? And I'm not saying being Christian is bad by any means, but there are these self-righteous uber Christian, people who only want to fight about dogma or what a good man or a good woman is, or and call people a loud liberal or a conservative, what do they call those? A Republican of some kind, but it's degrading. I don't know. But what's a good worker? All of these things are just, we think they have inherent value, but they're all just ways to keep us fussing with each other, and we don't look anywhere else, right? They pit us against each other. And this is the way it's always been. And children are indoctrinated to keep it going, right? Rocky says, I vouch for that. People don't listen when you try to be right. So it gets annoying and saddening and angering. For sure. Hi, Cynical Optimist. Peace to you as well. Hi, Catting Up with the Joneses. All right. Thank you guys for being in here. So this manipulation, right? It's a lot of the times they're doing it through fear mongering, because remember how I said like loneliness, stress, regret, fear, all of those kind of things in trying to be the right, whatever, be the right Christian, be the right Jew, be the right man, the right woman, the right conservative or liberal or Republican or Democrat, or be American, the right way, right? Be a husband, be a wife, mother, father. We all have to do it the right way. And it's so stressful that you're not going to do it the right way. And so fear mongering kind of keeps us fueled into that, right? Politicians, religious leaders, media outlets, they all capitalize on our insecurity and our need to be seen as right. They sell us the idea that if we're wrong, we're somehow vulnerable. Like, if so-and-so becomes the president, then it's going to be World War III, and we're all going to be in the Handmaid's Tale, and there are some truths that are used to fearmonger it into something bigger so that we can't even really focus on the truth of the matter and what the problems actually are, right? And so we buy into it because being wrong feels scary. It feels lonely, right? We're all trying to be part of a group and be the right one of X, right? Because the world that we live in is constantly demanding that we're perfect, and we do that. Like, well, you're a Democrat and you voted for Trump. Well, then, your mom was a truck driver. It's whatever, right? Leon says the problem is America. Well, I mean, capitalism, colonialism, and Christianity, the 3 C's of manipulation. But when we say who profits when everybody's stuck in this cycle of we're being so self-conscious without being introspective. We're so interested in what am I doing, saying, acting to make other people perceive me in a certain way. But I don't ever get to the root of anything. I don't ever think about my mind, right? Chasing that correct path or fitting into something that doesn't serve you really only benefits people who are already in power, right? When we're so focused on proving ourselves instead of pursuing our own version of happiness, we're just cogs in the machine, and they keep it going and they keep it going, and we buy into it over and over and over again. Hi, Compassionate and Callous. Thank you for being here. He says, present. You didn't put the hand up. I added that for, theatrical effect. Okay. So let's talk about like some actual examples so we can see this. Okay. Going to work, right? This is something sometimes people are like, oop, little cognitive dissonance on the going to work example. But we are told going to work, working hard, always, showing up on time, staying late, Dedicating yourselves to your job is the cornerstone of a respectable life. But who does it benefit, right? For corporations, your labor drives their profit, okay? Despite working longer hours than many countries, wages for most workers in the US have stagnated for decades, while CEO pay has skyrocketed by over 940% since 1978. I'm going to say that again, just so you guys hear me. And that's from the Economic Policy Institute, if anybody wants to look that up. But despite working longer hours than many other countries, wages for most workers in the United States have stagnated for decades, while CEO pay has skyrocketed by over 940% since 1978. Again, that's from the Economic Policy Institute. So the harder you work, the richer they become. But you are away from your family for 40, 50, 60 hours a week, exhausted, and little to show except maybe being able to meet your basic needs. Maybe. Okay. For the system as a whole, right? So this is corporations, but for the system as a whole, the 9 to 5 model, the daily grind model is designed to keep you dependent, right? You work enough to survive and the cycle repeats. You pay your time. I'm sorry, you sell your time. You sell your body. You sell your sanity for increasingly less and less and less pay. We've all got ourselves on the clearance rack, with the 90% markdown. We're all on Black Friday prices, right? And when we're caught in this cycle of work, 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 just to meet our basic needs to survive, it becomes really hard to question authority, right? Or make significant life changes when all your energy is spent just staying afloat, right? Just trying to survive. So there's an example. We're told all these positive things about work, 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 work. It doesn't do much for us at all. And it's interesting because these same corporations, these same systems, these same governments, terraformed ground and removed all the female trees, all of these things so that we couldn't have the free food that was already there and readily available to us. We now have to pay for the food. So then we have to go work for the food. And we always owe them money. Somehow we're always in debt. It costs money to be born. You're born in debt, right? So who is it really benefiting? Okay. So we're told, this hard work pays off, though. Pays off. It sounds noble, right? But it's just the carrot that's in front of the donkey, right? It's just the carrot that's in front of the masses. There's this myth of meritocracy, and we all know that this is not true. But the wealthy promote the myth of meritocracy, like based on your own merit, you can be successful, right? So that you believe that your success or failure is tied to your effort alone. Sorry, you would have got the promotion if, right? While ignoring all of the systemic barriers, right? So for example, somebody working 3 minimum wage jobs can barely make ends meet, while a trust fund baby accumulates wealth without ever lifting a finger. So where does this hard work pays off fall in, right? Here's how it benefits the wealthy, right? Your hard work is necessary to maintain the infrastructure that they profit from. This is how capitalism works, okay? Every warehouse worker, every teacher, every nurse, everybody who's working keeps society functional. This capitalism functional, but only a tiny, tiny fraction of the wealth that each individual generates trickles back to them. You get fractional pennies on the dollar, right? The majority goes to the top 1% who hoard all the resources so that you have to pay for everything and you have to work to get the money to pay for the things, and yet somehow you're still in debt. And you've been working hard, right? Why do you have to work hard? It doesn't make sense. Used to be free food everywhere. So here's another one. You have to get married, have kids, work hard. We're going to throw that in there, retire, and then die, right? That is what you do. Okay. We're told starting a family is the natural path, and not doing so is selfish. Okay. Now, there's an economic benefit to the system. Okay. Raising kids means spending money on daycare because they're making you go to work, healthcare, education, and endless consumer goods, all of which feed into industries controlled by the wealthy. So they're going to get your money. Again, it costs money to be born, it costs lots of money to have children. The average cost of raising a child in the US is now over $300,000. Every parent is a cog in the machine, funneling money into the economy, doing something that humans have done since all of human existence, and it didn't ever cost money to do so before. But now in capitalism, it can bankrupt you to have a child. Rocky says, like how all of the fruit-bearing trees were taken from the people and put on farms, and you got to pay hella money to buy a fruit-bearing tree, right? It's the female trees. So all the trees that they plant in cities and along roadsides and all that, they're all male trees, which means they put off pollen. That's why we have such a huge increase in allergies in our modern world, is because it's all tons and tons of these male trees and very few female trees, because the female trees are only on the farms so that they can charge you money for the apples and the pears and the peaches, right? Rocky says, I want low Rockies and Roxy's, but I'm glad I don't have them. It's too much money. And Leon says, essential workers. Right, right, right. Families are also less likely to revolt against an unjust system. When you have kids at home, especially when you have little ones, you're not going to be out on the front lines. You're not, right? So they want you to have little ones for a couple of reasons. One, you're less likely to revolt. Two, you need to keep going to work so that the little ones don't starve. And three, you're giving birth to your replacements. And they definitely want you to have more than just the two, you and your spouse, because other people don't have kids or have fertility issues. So they definitely want you to have more than two so they have enough workers. Okay. Raising children makes you want to be stable and conform and do things the right way out of fear, because they fearmonger, right? But again, we've been having babies for a very long time, hundreds of thousands of years. You're less likely to take risks or fight for systemic change when you're focused on feeding and protecting your kids. Rocky says, it's funny, the male trees are lonely and so are the male humans. What's interesting is humans are tribal creatures. We're supposed to live in communities and clans and tribes and villages. We're supposed to live together. We are primates at the end of the day. Regardless of creation or what a Big Bang or whatever anybody believes, we are primates, right? We are supposed to live in commune. That is how we are supposed to be. Loneliness is a very much a modern invention, because we're so individualized and kept separate from each other. They really only want you together if you're having a family, and then it's move on, right? Okay, so faith is another one, because faith is a revenue stream. Okay. So a lot of religious institutions teach that tithing, which is giving 10% of your income, is a moral obligation. It's moral obligation. It is a sin if you don't. So who benefits? Mega churches and religious organizations amass vast wealth through tax-free donations. These people are millionaires and billionaires and don't pay any taxes. So you get the money, or I'm sorry, you sell your time and your labor and your mind. You get pennies on the dollar back. Then they tax it because they want, even the government wants its big old chunk of it too. And then you have to give 10% of that to the church. Mm. And the people who are giving the 10% are the people who are struggling financially. And they give away money that they can't afford to lose because they are shit scared to not do things the right way. You got to do it. This is what God said. You got to do it. Follow the rules. Be right. Everybody has to see me being right. I have to be accepted. Compassionate says makes sense. Faith also uses control through fear and guilt. Religious dogma ties financial giving to spiritual rewards, right? Used to be the Catholic Church was the first one who did this. You could actually buy a gold coin, which was your ticket to heaven. Didn't matter who you were. They didn't talk heavy on sin or anything at that point in time. Sin didn't become a big thing till later, by the way. You just had your little coin. I forget what it's called. If one of you looks it up, yeah, Compassionate says the churches pay no taxes either. Yeah. Yeah. We're paying all the taxes. Oh, and churches don't even pay sales tax. They have sales tax exemption cards. So you're out here, you give your 10% after it's been heavily taxed, and then you got to go buy groceries and pay tax, and they can go buy whatever they want and pay no tax. Right? Oh, indulgences. Thank you, Spain man. They sold indulgences. Wasn't that the gold coin? Or am I thinking of something different? I think the gold coin was called an indulgence. Compassionate says a fiction writer couldn't make this shit up. Man. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Look, I said the S word twice. So apparently I feel passionate about this. So what we do with people nowadays is you have to pay your tithing. And actually, if you pay more than 10%, you have more of a chance of getting into heaven, right? So this, we convince people that they're buying God's favor or some sort of salvation with money, right? But this creates a dependency on the institution. I have to have a place to pay it, and I have to be seen as paying it to the right place, and discourages questioning authority. I have to pay my 10% and I have to go to church on Sunday. But if I find out that the pastor was doing something a little egregious, or I'm paying all this money and then I see that his new third wife has a 4-carat diamond ring on her finger, I'm not going to question it because I'll put it in God's hands, right? That's not for me. I'll put it in God's hands. I can't afford eggs, but he put a big old egg on her finger, right? Like we're not going to question because we have to be seen as morally right, right? So, let me change this. Okay, so it serves the wealthy and the powerful. We serve the rich and powerful. This is what we do by being right because they tell us what is right. Okay. So keeps you busy, right? By promoting the right life, society keeps you too occupied to question why anything is unfair. We're too busy. We're too tired, right? We can't. Bread is expensive. Between work, raising kids, all your obligations to religion, to the community, right? You don't have any time or energy left for activism. And what activism you do have time for, or you do, you try to do it right. Because again, we have all this indoctrination of being perceived as being right. And we do this performance pandering to be accepted into the group. So we have our little activism group and we try to do it right the way we're told, whether we're told that by government, whether we're told that by other members of the group, whatever. And then we have to do it right. So we never question anything. And do we ever get anywhere by doing things the way that we've always done them? We haven't gotten anywhere yet, right? We don't have any time for self-reflection. We don't have any time to challenge the system. And if we do have time, we're exhausted. Maybe we just want to do something nice for ourselves for once. And that's okay. They know that, right? It also consolidates their wealth, right? So your labor, your spending, your tithes, all of that flows upwards, okay? It benefits the already wealthy. All resources flow up in a Western society, okay? So everything flows up, barely anything ever trickles. And it doesn't really trickle down, because that's trickle down economics. It doesn't really trickle down. What happens is they don't take 100% of it. They just take most of it, right? Almost all of it. Every hour you work and every dollar you spend on these expectations of being right builds their empires, and it leaves you dependent upon them, right? If we tie our worth to following the right path, then society is always going to keep us in check. Anytime you hear, well, the right thing to do, that always makes me hesitate. Says who? And if you guys have watched me for a while, you know that I will ask, who told you that? Because if it benefits who told you that more than it benefits you, then maybe it's not correct. We live in this fear of being seen as lazy or selfish or immoral. So we don't ever step outside of the system or seek alternative ways to live, right? Because we have to be perceived as right, right? Okay, a 2019 study published in the Journal of Happiness Studies, yes, there is one, and it's interesting read, found that people who prioritize relational harmony over being right report significantly higher levels of life satisfaction, which is saying how I relate to other people. I'm focusing on my husband or wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. I'm focused on my relationship with my kids, my friendships with other people. I'm focused on those connections. They have significantly higher levels of life satisfaction, especially when compared to the people who are trying to do everything right. Okay. So, supply side economics. Thanks, Reagan. Thanks, compassionate. Oh, and thanks for saying I'm cooking. So, some people might say being right gets you respect, it gets you validation, it even helps you to be successful. And yes, in some situations it does, because that's the game that we're playing, right? I don't participate in society. Society participates me without any thought to what I want. Okay. So this is the game that we're in until we decide to stop playing. So in some situations, being seen as right will get you some respect, some validation, some success, right? But at what cost? Respect built on being right is fleeting. It's only until you make a mistake, right? Or you do something that they don't perceive as right, but it was right yesterday, right? Validation from others is always temporary. It's always temporary. You have to do more and more and more to get it. And then eventually you are a goody two shoes and nobody wants to validate you. And one person's right is another person's wrong. I mean, think about Christianity in the United States. There's so many flavors and variations. one Christian's right is another person's sin, is another one's going to hell, is another one's Jesus was a socialist, is it, you can't even keep them apart. So you're never going to be right to everybody anyway, or even to a majority of people, you're not going to be right. The pursuit of being correct it's a moving target. Okay. It just leaves you empty and unfulfilled in the long run because you never focused on you, what you want, what you think is right, the direction you want to go. Have you ever gotten to shoot for the moon and just go for the gusto? Probably not, because none of these systems want you to do that. So, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Happiness doesn't ever come from proving yourself. As a matter of fact, there's a saying that comparison is the thief of joy. So being right in that, are we following the rules? Are we doing this? Are we doing that? I have to compare myself to these other Christians, these other Democrats, these other Republicans, these other Americans, this is how we do these things. Joy, gone, right? True happiness comes from connection, understanding, relationship, and freeing yourself from systems that only benefit other people. Yeah, there are certain things we have to participate in, but seeing that it's a game, that's a game changer, right? Stop living the life somebody else designed for you. You were born in debt. They plugged you into the system. They gave you your position. They handed you a script, and off you go. You don't have to do that. All right. Henry David Thoreau, whom I love, said, "The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. That desperation often comes from chasing what society tells us is right, rather than seeking what truly makes us happy. Happiness isn't about winning debates or proving you're correct. It's about breaking free from those chains of expectation and living authentically. So ask yourself, are you living for yourself or for a system that was never designed to set you free?" Compassionate says, "Facts. Self-determination is ironically found through relationship with other people, not markets." 100%. Okay, so we're about 40 minutes in. We are going to have the after show on Patreon, and it's open to all members. I have all membership levels. In fact, a majority of my members are free members. Not all. Some people do sponsor the channel in that way. My super stickers and super chats are functioning. Yay! But the after show is going to be on Patreon. I remembered to make it unlisted instead of private this time. Oh, me. Silly. So we're going to go over to Patreon. If you want to come over to the after show, that's where I get a little more weird, a little more tinfoil hat, a little more real about what I talk about than I can on YouTube. So you can follow us over there. If you don't have a membership, you can set up a regular membership or a free membership, whatever you want to do. Some upcoming shows. Let's talk about that. Let me cross this one off that I just did. Yay! Okay. In December, okay, this coming Sunday is a show about masculine energy and that society needs masculine energy. Hey, guess what we just talked about? Plays into it. Society needs masculine energy for liberation. That's this coming Sunday. And then that following Wednesday is the quantum physics explanation of karma. So that one should be pretty interesting too, because in physics, they found that karma is real. So it's not woo-woo like a lot of people thought. All right. Thank you guys for being here. Please like the video if you haven't already. It really helps the algorithm to know what kind of things you like. Share where you think it's appropriate, especially to someone who you think needs to hear it. And don't forget to check out some of the wilder Pivot Point Wednesday shows. And last, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, especially if you want to break down complex concepts that make the esoteric not so teric, helping you on your journey to become your most authentic self. By subscribing, you'll join a community that thrives on curiosity and growth, and you'll never miss out on insights and some wild discussions. Let's uncover the universe together. Bye.